Analysis on this with Samuel Ramani, who's a researcher at the University of Oxford. Samuel, welcome to the programme. I want to ask you a very simple question. It'll be a very, very tough answer, I bet. Is Russia a democracy?
So I would say that it's very hard to call Russia anything more than a procedural democracy, in that it holds elections and that it has a lower house of parliament and an upper house of parliament that act as nominal checks on the executive branch's authority. But in practice, those elections are not free and fair, and the designation of Navalny as an extremist will make Russia even more authoritarian in character going forward.
Give us a bit more detail on that analysis that you just gave us of the two houses, especially because these are elections for the lower house. How much power does it actually have?
So the lower house actually has the ability to act as an advisory body that can influence and steer directions on some issues that are outside of the most important policy issues. So in foreign policy, it'll probably have negligible roles on their military interventions in Ukraine and Syria, but might play a role in terms of their diplomacy, their relations with other external powers, lower profile crises, more in an advisory and support role. And also, they represent local districts and local regions, so they can ensure the loyalty of Russian regions to the United Russia Party and advise on socioeconomic policy as well. So that's what I would see their role being.
How effective was Alexei Navalny's app, and what do you make of its removal from the app stores of both Google and Apple?
So Alexei Navalny's app was really aimed at channeling opposition voters into presenting themselves as a coordinated voice, because basically the Kremlin's tactic against the Russian opposition is to designate them as extremists and also divide them. So basically, if you're not voting for United Russia, you should coalesce around a single party. And there's a little bit very difficult to tell whether that really worked. Obviously, the opinion polls are showing United Russia Party at 30% only, which is a lot lower than previous elections, including 2016, but a commanding majority of seats. So I don't think it had much electoral impact. Its ban is actually due to a broader crackdown on what it sees as U.S. interference in the Russian elections. And that means targeting big tech, targeting Google, targeting Apple, and threatening their employees with criminal prosecution if they do not remove content that Russia calls extremist.
Look, obviously, I know these are parliamentary elections, but regarding the big man, if there were a presidential election today and it was a free and fair contest, do you think Vladimir Putin would be elected?
So again, it's very difficult to tell based on state polling. Obviously, B2SIOM, which is a state polling agency, is heavily directed by the Kremlin, at least since 2003 or 2004. The independent Levada Center does generally ask about socioeconomic and foreign policy issues, but not so much about who would be the ideal choice for president. So it's really hard in terms of empirical data. But I think that given the fact that the opposition is very fractured and that Putin and the United Russia Party have such a commanding control over Russian conservatives and anti-Western nationalists, I think that regardless of whether an election was free or rigged, he would probably be a clear frontrunner.
And, you know, because it's so complicated, Samuel, that's why we turn to experts like you. Really, thanks so much indeed. Samuel Ramani from the University of Oxford.